I just wanted to share my experience with this in case anyone else is considering it, because I have owned other robotic pool cleaners, and I have been disappointed more than once. I have dealt with robots that get stuck on steps, miss obvious debris, or quit halfway through a cycle because the battery did not make it. I went into this one skeptical, and I kept that skepticism for the first couple of runs until I saw a consistent pattern in what it could and could not do. The basic idea is simple. It is a cordless robot that I drop into my pool to clean without me pushing a pole vacuum around. If you have a pool and you are tired of manual vacuuming, or you are tired of emptying the skimmer basket every day during leaf season, this is the kind of product you are looking at. In my case, I wanted something that could handle regular weekly cleaning and also help me stay ahead of spring debris without me babysitting it. What made this one stand out for me is that it is not limited to just the floor. I've used cleaners that do one job and still leave me brushing the walls and dealing with the scum line by hand. With this one, I have been able to run it in different modes depending on what my pool needs that day. Some days I just want it to pick up what is floating before it sinks. Other days I want it to spend time on the floor and walls. That flexibility ended up being the main reason I kept reaching for it. In terms of how it looks and feels, it is a compact unit with a modern design, and the color is a deep green that is hard to miss. The more important part is the build. It feels solid in my hands, and it has real weight to it, around 26 pounds. That sounds like a complaint, but in the water that weight actually helps it stay planted and not bounce around. On my pool floor it tracks steadily instead of jittering, and when it climbs the walls it does not feel like it is barely hanging on. Out of the water, the weight matters more, especially if you are carrying it one-handed or storing it up on a shelf. I can lift it, but I notice it every time. Setup was about as simple as it gets. I charged it, put it in the pool, and used the phone app to choose a cleaning mode. There was no assembly and no hoses to deal with, which I appreciated because I have owned suction side cleaners in the past and I am done wrestling hoses. Day to day, using it is basically a routine of charge it, drop it in, let it run, rinse the filter basket and put it back on the charger. Battery life has been one of the more practical benefits. I ran it in a surface-focused mode, and it stayed out there for a long stretch, basically covering the better part of the day before it needed a recharge. When I used the more demanding cleaning modes that include wall work, it still ran long enough to finish my pool without feeling like it was rushing. I do not time it with a stopwatch, but in real-life terms, I can start a cycle after breakfast, and it is still working through the late morning. Charging has been reasonable too. If I plug it in after dinner, it is ready the next day. The surface cleaning behavior was the part I did not expect to use as much as I do. I get a lot of leaves, small blossoms, and bugs, especially when the wind picks up. Normally I would skim manually, and it turns into a daily chore. With this robot, I can send it out to patrol the surface, and it will collect a surprising amount before it ever sinks. When I pulled the basket out after a few runs during peak debris weeks, it was obvious it had been doing real work. That said, it does not catch everything. Very light stuff like fine pollen or tiny insects that cling to the surface tension near the pool edge can still escape. I see that with regular skimmers too, so I am not shocked, but I want to be honest about it. Where I judge a pool robot is on the floor and walls, because that is where the time and effort usually go. In my pool, it handled the shallow end and deep end without getting confused, and it did not repeatedly slam into the same corner the way some cheaper robots do. It also did a decent job along the waterline. That line can be stubborn if you get sunscreen buildup or oily residue, and while it did not replace occasional manual scrubbing for me, it reduced how often I felt I needed to do it. One thing that made daily use easier is how it comes back to an edge when it is done, or when the battery is getting low. I have had robots that stop in the middle and force me to grab a pole and go fishing for them. Here, most of the time, it made itself easy to reach. When I lift it out, it also drains water from the body, so I am not trying to deadlift a water-filled machine over the coping. That detail sounds small, but after a few weeks it becomes one of those quality-of-life things you really notice. The app is helpful, mostly for choosing modes and keeping an eye on what it is doing. Connection was straightforward. When the robot is on the surface, the connection feels more responsive. When it is fully underwater, I notice the response can lag a bit, and sometimes I have to wait an extra moment for a command to register. That is not unusual for wireless devices around water, but it is worth knowing if you expect instant control at all times. I used the manual guidance a few times when I saw a little cluster of debris and wanted to nudge it over there, and it worked, just not with the snappy feel you would get from something operating in open air. I also paid attention to how it deals with real pool messes. After a windy day, I let the leaves sit as a test, then ran a cleaning cycle. It picked up the larger stuff easily and did not leave me with that gritty layer that some robots miss. After a small storm, my water looked a little dull, and after running the robot a couple of times, it looked clearer to my eye. I am careful with claims here because water clarity depends on chemistry and filtration too, but I can say I saw improvement faster than I usually do when I only rely on the pool system. Now for the downsides. The weight is real. If you have trouble lifting or you want something you can casually toss around, this is not that. I also noticed that like any robot, it has moments where it needs a second to reorient, especially around tight transitions or odd shapes. It did not get permanently stuck in my pool, but I saw it pause, back up, and try a different angle more than once. That is normal behavior, but if you are expecting a perfectly smooth path every second, that is not how these work. Overall, after a few weeks of using it like a normal pool owner, I ended up trusting it. It became part of my routine instead of a gadget I felt guilty about buying. It reduced the amount of manual skimming I do. It kept the floor from building up debris between deeper cleanings, and it made wall maintenance less frequent. It is not magical, and it does not replace basic pool care, but it did take real work off my plate. I will leave all the information about the Beatbot AquaSense 2 Pro cordless robotic pool cleaner in the comments. I hope to see you again in the following videos.